What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a fun little second channel video. I'm stoned out of my mind right now, and I got a comment that kind of inspired me to make this video. Now, I get this comment very often, but someone asked me how I got into YouTube. In particular, they asked how I made it my job, and I get asked this question all the fucking time. I thought it would make a kind of interesting video topic. I don't know. Maybe it won't. Maybe you'll all hate it. I don't really care, honestly. That's a personal problem. But hope you guys enjoy this one. Drop a like if you do. And without further ado, let's dive into it. The story of how I became a YouTuber. So, when I was young, you know, I obviously didn't grow up and go like, yo, dude, I definitely want to make YouTube videos when I'm older. I remember when I was a kid, there was a million different jobs I wanted to do. For a long time, I had lawyer in my head when I was super young. I'm talking like 12 years old, you know, because I liked arguing with people. I was like, yo, I can hold a conversation, bro. I'm trying to argue for a living, you know, like, hey, if I could just beef with people for a living, that's fire, you know? So, lawyer appealed to me when I was young. As I got a little bit older, you know, around when I turned like probably 13 or so, I started making YouTube videos. I was 12 or 13 when I started making videos, right? So, when I first started making videos, obviously it still wasn't like a job thing for me. I never thought it could be a job because back then, this was like 2012, 2011, you know? And YouTube as a job was not really a thing yet. Like, there were very, very few career YouTubers at that point, you know? Like, back in the day, I mean, the dudes making a living were like Smosh, if anyone remembers those guys, dude. I was 12 at the time, so they were a big deal to me, you know? But now I'm a grown-ass man. So I remember when I first started YouTube, I just made like general gaming videos. I watched a lot of Call of Duty YouTubers. Like when I was young, I'd watch like White Boy 7th Street and those kind of guys. So when I started making videos, I immediately went into doing like gaming videos, you know? I would do Call of Duty tips and tricks videos, and I still didn't smoke or do any drugs at this point. You know, YouTube was a very, very fun side hobby of mine, but I still didn't think I was going to be doing it as long as I have been, you know? As I got a little older and, you know, a couple years went by, I was about 14 or so at this point. I'd been making videos for like 2 years. Now, when I was 14 was when this current channel was made, my main channel. I actually had 2 channels before that, but they both got copyright strikes because I didn't understand copyright or fair use laws. So I would just slap someone's entire song on my video. Like I would put like a fucking Jay-Z song as my background music and then wonder why I got copyrighted. I had no idea what I was doing, right? But eventually, I made my third channel, my main one now, just my Goblin channel. And pretty shortly after making that channel, I got into high school, right? My freshman year of high school had started. I'd had this channel for less than a year. And I started, you know, doing a lot more of the stuff that I do nowadays. I started drinking a little bit. I started smoking, becoming a lot more social. And at this point, I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. The whole lawyer thing was out the window at that point because I realized how much schooling it would take. And by that age, I realized that school was just not for me. Growing up, I always hated being told what to do. Like, if someone asked me to do something, I'm a nice guy, you know, I'll help you out, I'll do you a favor. But I just hated the fact that I would get out of school and I would go home and be forced to do something outside of school hours, or else I'd get a worse grade and fail. I hated it. Like, it would make my blood boil just having a teacher get angry at me because I didn't do my homework. I hated it. So I knew, you know, kind of going into this high school experience of mine, I knew that I didn't want a job that required a lot of education, you know? I knew that I was not going to end up being a doctor or a lawyer because you have to go to school for years and years for that kind of shit. And I hate school. I just couldn't do it. I would say that I might... No, actually, I take that back. I was about to say I have a problem with authority, but, like, I kind of don't. I just really don't like being forced to do something, you know? Whatever I do, ever since I was young, I always like to do it on my own free will. Like if you ever see me doing something, it's because I want to do it. Like YouTube, for example, this second channel, streaming, like you see me doing it because I want to do it, you know? The stuff I do in my personal life, it's because I want to do it, never because I have to. If I don't want to do something, I'm just simply not going to do it. And that's always how I've been, right? So when I was in my freshman and early sophomore year of high school, you know, I started making drug-related videos. I was kind of running out of video ideas at the time, and, you know, I'd made all the tips and tricks on Call of Duty that I could think of, and I was like, hey, what if I tell a story, you know? So I told a story about the first time that I smoked weed. Now, this was ages ago. This video is long gone. I actually recreated this video. But this was like one of my first ever drug stories on my channel. And almost as soon as I uploaded that video, it became like the most popular video on my channel. I was getting new subscribers, new comments, and I was like, dude, holy shit, like, this is it. I think I might have found the recipe to get myself some more views. Now, when that video went up, I had, like, maybe 1,000 subscribers, you know? I mean, if even. I believe it was actually less than that. And once I started uploading these stories, I also had a lot of friends from my Call of Duty video days who were in different Call of Duty clans. So I got invited to make videos for this clan called Doom Clan. They had like 1 million subscribers back in the day. I don't know what they do nowadays. I'm still friends with some of the guys in that clan. I don't really think they're like an active team anymore. I think that era is kind of over for YouTube, the whole like COD clan era, you know, but I joined them and they had a ton of subscribers, and they invited me to talk over their videos. They were like, yo, dude, you should do commentaries over some of our gameplays. They would send me this file of like a really good Call of Duty game, you know, like some guy getting like a tactical nuke or some shit, and then I would talk over it and just tell a story and be like, yo, here's the gameplay. It's from this guy, now let's talk, you know? Kind of a weird content format, but it worked, and I started gaining subscribers. Now, that gave me my first like 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers, and you know, throughout my time of doing this stuff for the clan, I turned 16, you know, I got older, my sophomore year of high school started, and I started working regular jobs. And that's when I really realized that I hated being told what to do. My first ever job I had was Wendy's, and I remember I hated it. I mean, probably my least favorite job I've ever had, because it was just so mind-numbing and grueling. You never stop. They're so busy, dude. I mean, 1 second you're taking someone's order, and then you're going over to the window, all to get paid minimum wage and get treated shit by your boss. Like, I hated it, dude. My boss would yell at me when the line was too long. It was a terrible job, honestly. And it made me realize even further that, like, there's no way that I'm going to be in a position for the rest of my life where someone's telling me what to do every day. I hated it. I went on and I worked a lot more jobs through high school and after high school. After that job at Wendy's, I worked a mix of jobs because I could never hold them. I could never find something I really enjoyed, right? So I worked at a grocery store as a cart pusher, hated it. Later in high school, I stocked shelves, hated it. But all through my high school days, I kept making these YouTube videos. My jobs would change, but the one consistent thing that I had was YouTube. I loved doing it. And at that point, I still was making pretty much no money off of YouTube. I mean, at that point in high school, I think I was making what? Like, maybe $100 a month off of my YouTube content, like altogether, because I wasn't getting sponsorships back then. I wasn't streaming back then. I was just throwing up videos for fun, you know, and I didn't really care if they got monetized or not. And to be frank, I upload drug content. I still don't give a fuck, but it happens sometimes, you know. But YouTube was the one thing that I just loved doing as a kid, you know? And growing up, I just fucking loved it. So as I went through high school and kept working these shitty jobs, I thought that, like, damn, dude, I'm screwed, bro. And I started looking into becoming a garbage man. Genuinely. Listen, don't sleep on that job, bro. Garbage men get paid, dude. If I wasn't on YouTube right now, I guarantee you'd see me collecting your waste management bins. Those motherfuckers make 6 figures in the right areas, dude. I was like, damn. Me and my homies, I was talking to my friends, I was like, boys, we could just simply all become garbage men and we're chilling. My friends were kind of down for the plan, but they had some bigger aspirations. But me, I was pretty content with with that gig. I was like, yeah, my friends were all talking about going to college and shit. And I'm like, bro, hell no, I can make 6 figures without all that bullshit. No shot, right? So that was my plan towards the end of high school. As it became more and more apparent to me that I was probably not going to college, not probably, definitely not, and I was probably not even going to graduate. My grades slipped further and further as I started doing more drugs and I started going out more and giving less shits about anything to do with school. And even before the drugs, I already wasn't a great student. I mean, I was getting like C's in all my classes, but after I started smoking and doing drugs and doing harder stuff, my grades plummeted. In my junior year of high school, my GPA was 0.8. I shit you not. My overall GPA was 0.8 in my junior year of high school. So I got kicked out of my main school and sent to an alternative school as kind of like my last chance to graduate, if you will. I went to that school and all that did was fuel my drug use because it turns out that that school is where they send all of the drug addicts of the district. I mean, if you've had a drug infraction at a main school, they will ship you off to this school. They won't just ship you off for grade-related stuff. It's behavior, too. So when I got there, I'm greeted by a world of kids who are bringing every drug under the sun to school, right? I mean, I'm talking kids are showing up with Coke, Xanax, Triple C's, acid, all sorts of shit. And at that point, my drug use exploded. I went on a rampage. All day, every day, I was getting fucked up. At that point, I wasn't really thinking about my future or anything. I briefly, very briefly, went into like a short little psych ward rehab stint, right? It was like a week and a half long at that point. This wasn't my full rehab stint. I was still in school for this first brief little psych ward stint. I got out. And I dropped out of high school that exact same year, right? I got out of the mental ward around like, it was like May of, oh God, what year was this? 2016, I think it was, I believe. Don't quote me, I think. But either way, I'd gotten out of the psych ward, and I just decided that school wasn't for me, Obviously, getting sent there involuntarily as a minor didn't do anything for my sobriety. I picked up my drug use pretty much immediately when I got back out. Like, the very damn day, I'm pretty sure I got stoned. And started doing other shit again. I was tripping all through the summer, dropping acid. It was a fun time. But either way, back on topic here. So, after I'd gotten out of that, I decided that school just wasn't for me. My mom was getting fed up with my behavior, so she kicked me out and sent me to live with my dad. Now, my dad's house was not a very great environment. Him and I never got along. He was very, very mean, but he was also never home. He worked a lot. He'd only be home at night. So it presented a unique opportunity for me to just do hella drugs all day and make YouTube videos. That's exactly what I did. I'm pretty sure in the period of 3 months, 3 or 4 months that I stayed with my dad after getting kicked out of my mom, I uploaded more videos than I have in the entire past year. I mean, like, I was pent up in that house. My car had gotten taken away, right? I had nothing to do. So I was just sitting there getting fucked up and making videos all day long, boys. I mean, all day long. Now, of course, that little drug binge of the summer of me just sitting in my dad's house, making videos all day, getting fucked up, came to an end. As a lot of you guys watching this probably know, I got sent to rehab at one point, and that happened at the end of this binge. I was on probation. I'd just gotten sentenced for stealing, the classic Walmart incident, which I've made videos about. So I'd just gotten put on probation for that, and I genuinely was not able to stop doing drugs. Like, I couldn't help myself. My parents, after a bad acid trip, opted to send me to rehab because I was still a minor, and this was realistically their last chance to send me in involuntarily. Now, that's a discussion for a different day. I personally think that sending someone to rehab involuntarily is not beneficial and doesn't do anything, because if you don't want to get sober yourself, you can't force it on someone, right? They have to want it for themselves. But that's a topic for a different video. So I'd made all these videos through the summer and I got sent to rehab, right? I'd lost my job. I was stocking shelves working at my dad's and I'd lost my job, right? So I got sent to rehab. I'm now jobless and I spent 2 months in this rehab facility, right? In fact, it was about 2 months. It was about 2 months if I remember correctly. I get out of there. And I'm on probation now. I'm getting drug tested, so I can't do anything. I can't smoke weed, but I'd been kind of locked away out of state in this rehab facility for so long that wasn't honestly that huge of a problem. But pretty quickly after getting out of rehab, I checked my YouTube channel just kind of out of nowhere, and I realized that my sub count had like over doubled while I was in rehab. All those videos I put out over the summer paid off, and going into rehab, I was at like, I think 6,000 or 7,000 subscribers, and when I got out, I remember I was over 13,000, and I was over the moon about it. I mean, I was ecstatic. I couldn't believe it. I remember as soon as I got my phone back, because we weren't allowed to have our cell phones in this rehab, so I had no outside internet access at all the entire time. Couldn't make a single post. Half the people who watched me didn't even know where I was, right? But when I got out and I checked my phone for the first time, I remember just being so excited to get home and make a video. I was like, oh my God, do I have the mecca of all stories right now? Holy shit, I was so happy. I finally had over 10K subs. I couldn't believe it, right? So I was super excited, and I got home from rehab, and I immediately got to it, just banging out these videos, right? At this point, I still never considered YouTube to be a potential job, because even with my increase in sub count, I still was making like $100 a month, if even, you know? So it wasn't really a realistic option for me, you know? It wasn't something that I ever saw myself doing for a living. Throughout that year, 2017, when I was on probation and unable to smoke, I was still doing other drugs for sure on the low, especially Xanax. That was one that I would abuse fairly often to deal with working, honestly, because I'd gotten back to just the grind. I got a job working in sales at a bathroom remodeling company, where essentially I would go to like trade shows or malls or even flea markets, really wherever they'd send me, and try to get leads. Now, I'll admit that was the first job that I actually really liked. I loved being in sales, right? I loved going up and talking to people. I loved the challenge of trying to get someone to fold for what I'm selling, you know? I loved every aspect of it. I wasn't really very closely supervised. They kind of trusted me to do my own thing. And for the first time in my life at that point, I was like, wow, I could really see myself doing something like this, you know? I mean, I really enjoy this. I worked there for a while until finally I'd gotten a better job offer at a Lexus dealership near me. Now, I wasn't working in sales. I got a position as a cashier/receptionist, but I figured that could be my entry point to work my way up to sales. So I was really excited. By the time I'd gotten this job, it was getting towards the end of my probation period. It was about August of 2017, and I only had maybe 3 months left or so on my probation, right? So I started working at this Lexus dealership, and I honestly, I liked it at first. More so because it was really exciting. But as I kept working there, they kept tacking on more responsibilities for me without a pay increase. They had me also working in the service call center, and they made me learn all the service codes on all of the Lexus vehicles and start answering their calls in the service center while also being a cashier. Like, they would route calls to my cashier desk from the service center, and I'd be there giving people tips on what the issue is with their car. Meanwhile, I'm also working as a cashier. Mind you, for no additional pay. I got fed up with that pretty quickly, and I just kind of straight up said, like, hey, you guys got to pay me more. I'm doing 3 goddamn jobs. I'm a receptionist, I'm a cashier, and now I'm working in service. Like, I deserve a raise. They offered me a 25-cent an hour raise after 12 months of being employed there. Mind you, I was only on month 3, and they already had me doing way more work than I was hired for or signed up for, with no additional benefits. Now, I was getting pretty unhappy with that, and they really weren't willing to budge at all. I was getting fed up. And, you know, I was looking around at other jobs, and there was no other real good dealership positions near me, but I knew I wanted to be in sales. I held out for another like 2 months or so at this job, 2 or 3 months, and eventually I just got so fed up with it. I was having consistent bad days after bad days at work, and I came home, and, you know, towards the end of this, I'd gotten off probation. I was just able to start smoking again, you know, and one day I was stoned, and I was sitting there, and I was like, dude, fuck this shit. I'm still answering to somebody. I'm still, you know, I'm just having a terrible time. Like, this isn't what I want to do. At this point, I had just had one of my best months ever on YouTube. I had made $300 and I gotten the most views ever. Woo! Hey, big money, big month, baby. So I had a little bit of money saved up at that point because, I'd just gotten off probation. So I'd stacked up pretty hard because I wasn't spending any money on weed. So I said to myself, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to quit my job, no 2-week notice. I'm not going to find a new one. I'm doing this YouTube shit. Like, no matter what. At that point, it was 2017. Late 2017, so, people doing YouTube for a job was much more common, and I was starting to gain some real traction. I mean, I had well over 20,000 subscribers at that point, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going for it. So I quit my job, no notice, just straight up stopped showing up because I was so sick of them, stopped answering all their calls, and just went for it. I started uploading way more frequently. I started doing way more YouTube-related stuff and really focusing on it and trying to learn. Now, at that point, I still was not making anywhere near enough money to call it a living, but I lived with my parents and I didn't have bills to pay outside of like phone bill and like a few other things, So now, during this period of only doing YouTube for a living, I got back into my drug use, probation was a period where I kind of calmed down, but I was never really fully sober. I was still doing other things, just I was doing things that would get out of my urine stream faster, But at this point, I started getting heavy back into all the drugs, smoking, all that shit, and really grinding this YouTube stuff. I still wasn't making enough for a living, but I had a friend who ran a YouTube channel that he needed voiceover work done for. So I did a brief bit of contract work for him to make some extra money. It was nothing crazy. I was making like $800 a month, but at the time that was more than I was making off my ad revenue on my YouTube channel. So I was like, dude, this is huge. Now, I grinded that for a little bit, and by the end of the following year in 2018, I had a pretty sizable following. I was getting close to 100,000 subs, and at that point, YouTube being a job was really starting to work, right? I mean, it was really, really starting to click, and I'm not gonna lie, I'd never been happier than the day I hit 100,000 subscribers, because it kind of hit me on that day. I was like, damn, I really fucking did it. Growing up, it started out as a hobby, and it was always just kind of like a pipe dream thing. Like, of course, I'd be in my head like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if I could do this for a living? But, I actually managed to do it, with the help of you guys. And it was a really fucking surreal feeling, honestly. As I gotten older, eventually, as you guys who have been watching the channel know, I got kicked out of my mom's house the following year because, although I was achieving success on YouTube, I was still on a drug rampage, Right after Coke Chronicles happened, I got kicked out of my mom's house, which you guys can probably imagine why, I mean, hey, not surprising. It was in October of that year. Also my DUI, but that's a different story. We got a video about that already. So I got kicked out of my mom's house, and at that point, I was still not making a ton of money. I mean, I was making enough to, scrape by, but I was not making a ton. I was making, maybe, $2,000 a month on a good month. A little less than that, right? So, at the time, I was like, shit. I'd just gotten kicked out of my mom's house. I didn't have a lot of money saved up at that point because I was blowing it all on drugs, being an idiot. And now I had 7 days to get out of my mom's house and find a place to stay, or else I'd be sleeping on friends' couches, Now, I luckily found a place to stay. That's where I moved out of my hometown and got into the Scuffed House, which, if you guys are OGs and you remember the live streams of my old Scuffed House, those were some fun times. Those were some reckless times. But I got into that house, and that's when it really clicked that, this is my job, even leading up to getting kicked out, it was kind of like, yeah, I'm making some money off YouTube, but, I don't know if this will really be my job. But when I got kicked out, it made me realize, wow, this is it. It's do or die. This is all I have. I have to do this. I have to continue and I have to succeed. So I just started busting my fucking ass. I mean, streaming every single day when I first got kicked out. Fucking just going nuts. And luckily, it all kind of worked out, I mean, I maintained a pretty steady pace of growth. I grinded. I banged out as many videos as I could. I started streaming. I tried to branch out with some of my content. And, it worked out pretty well. Did you guys hear that voice crack? That was fucked. Either way, we're not going to talk about that. But, You know, it was never something that started as like, oh, I'm going to make this my job. You know, it was just something I was really passionate about doing. And I've always loved just talking. You know, I mean, I could sit here and just talk about nothing for fucking hours, bro. And I really love that people are willing to listen to it. It's my favorite part of YouTube, honestly. But I don't know. I'm stoned. I'm a little more sober now, so I'm going to go get more stoned. But I figured I'd just share the story of how I became a YouTuber. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, gamers.